1. Claudette Colvin. 9 months before Rosa Parks' famous act of defiance, a 15-year-old girl named Claudette Colvin did the very same thing. On March 2, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, she refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus to a white person. She was arrested, and her case was one of the first to challenge the segregation laws. In fact, she was a key plaintiff in the Browder v. Gale case, which ultimately led to the Supreme Court declaring segregated buses unconstitutional. So why isn't her name as famous as Rosa Parks? At the time, civil rights leaders felt that a pregnant, unmarried teenager wouldn't be the right symbol for their movement. They chose to rally behind Rosa Parks instead. But let's be clear, Claudette Colvin was a true pioneer, a brave young woman who took a stand for what was right, long before it was a national movement. 2. Bayard Rustin, the man who was the strategic genius behind one of the most iconic events in the civil rights movement. His name was Bayard Rustin. If you've ever seen photos of the 1963 March on Washington, where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his "I Have a Dream" speech, you've seen Rustin's work. He was the chief organizer, the man who handled every single logistical detail, from the buses to the sound system, for 250,000 people. He was a master strategist and a lifelong activist, deeply committed to the principles of nonviolent resistance, which he actually taught to Dr. King. So, why was such a pivotal figure kept in the shadows? Because Bayard Rustin was an openly gay man, and in the 1960s, other civil rights leaders feared that his sexuality would be used to discredit the movement. They valued his brilliance, but kept him out of the spotlight. For decades, his contributions were largely erased from the history books. But without Bayard Rustin, the March on Washington simply wouldn't have happened. 3. Dr. Charles Drew. During World War II, Dr. Drew, an African-American surgeon and researcher, revolutionized the way we store and transport blood. He developed groundbreaking techniques for processing and preserving blood plasma, which has a much longer shelf life than whole blood. This innovation made it possible to create large-scale blood banks and ship life-saving plasma to soldiers on the front lines. His Blood for Britain program was a massive success and became the model for the American Red Cross blood banking system. But here's the heartbreaking part. The very system he created was segregated. The Red Cross at the time separated blood donations based on race. Dr. Drew fiercely protested this unscientific and discriminatory policy, arguing that there was no racial difference in blood. He was a medical genius who fought not only to save lives, but also for dignity and equality within the system he helped build. 4. William B. Gould. From a pioneer in medicine to a hero on the high seas. Many stories from the Civil War focus on presidents and generals, but some of the most powerful accounts come from those who fought for their own freedom. This brings us to William B. Gould. Born into slavery in North Carolina, Gould executed a daring escape with 7 other enslaved men in 1862. They rowed 28 nautical miles in a small boat to reach the safety of a Union Navy ship. But Gould didn't just stop at securing his own freedom. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy and served for the rest of the war. What makes his story so incredibly valuable is that he kept a diary. Throughout his escape and his time in the Navy, he meticulously documented his experiences, thoughts, and the historic events he witnessed, from naval blockades to the fall of the Confederacy. This diary provides one of the few existing first-hand accounts of the Civil War written by an escaped slave. It's a priceless historical treasure that gives us a window into the conflict from a perspective that was almost completely silenced. 5. Grace Hopper. Now we're going from the Civil War to the dawn of the computer age, and to a woman whose mind shaped the technology we all use today. Her name was Grace Hopper, and she was a force of nature. A brilliant mathematician and a rear admiral in the U.S. Navy, Hopper was a true computing pioneer. In the 1940s, while working on the Harvard Mark I computer, she had a revolutionary idea. What if we could communicate with computers using words instead of just numbers and symbols? This led her to develop the first compiler, a program that translates English language instructions into code that computers can understand. Her work was fundamental to the creation of COBOL, one of the first high-level programming languages that made computing more user-friendly and accessible for business and government. She also famously popularized the term debugging after a moth was found stuck in a relay, causing a computer to malfunction. Amazing Grace, as she was known, didn't just write programs. She envisioned a world where technology could be understood and used by everyone, not just a handful of scientists. 6. Fred Korematsu. Our final story is a powerful reminder that fighting for what's right often means standing alone against your own government. This is the story of Fred Korematsu. In the aftermath of the Pearl Harbor attack during World War II, the U.S. government made a decision fueled by fear and prejudice. It ordered the forced removal and incarceration of over 120,000 Japanese Americans. While most complied, a 23-year-old American citizen named Fred Korematsu refused. He believed the order was a violation of his civil rights, so he went into hiding. He was soon arrested, and his case went all the way to the Supreme Court. In the infamous 1944 Korematsu v. United States decision, the court sided with the government, ruling that the incarceration was a military necessity. It was a devastating blow for civil liberties. But Korematsu never gave up his fight for justice. Decades later, with the help of new evidence showing the government had suppressed intelligence that proved Japanese Americans were not a threat, his conviction was formally overturned in 1983. His lonely stand became a powerful symbol of the fight against racial discrimination.